You've tuned in to chipsgrooveradio with your hosts, Mike and John. Welcome to the show, everyone. I'm your host, Mike, and with me, as always, is John. How are you doing today?
Oh, I'm feeling real sneaky today.
A little stealthy, are you?
A little stealthy.
Nice.
And a little wild from this soundtrack. It is a wild one.
Yeah, it's all over the place. I'm loving it.
Yeah.
We are talking today of Tenchu, Wrath of Heaven. This came out for the good old PlayStation 2 originally. It is one of my favorite titles for that generation of games. It is composed by Noriyuki Asakura, known for, of course, the Tenchu series, as well as some anime, Rurouni Kenshin, and also the Way of the Samurai games. He's got a lot of style in Tenchu alone, but this one definitely feels a little bit more complete to me as a listener. I think this album, it's pretty straightforward. I don't say straightforward as in simple, but straightforward in their message, I think. They still offer a certain depth and grace that I think it's really fun to listen to, even on its own.
Yeah, for sure. Did he do the games before this?
Yeah, and past this as well.
It was very interesting. Multiple of the songs that I have kind of listed, it's a mix of traditional, classic, either classic Japanese or more classic guitar, classic maybe bluegrass, some of them, and with some metal riffs, some rock and roll. It's really interesting that he's able to meld some of these styles together and in a way that they all sound beautiful.
Yeah, I think he does a stellar job just utilizing all these instruments and making them flow, because there is a lot on this album, a lot to dissect, and we can't get into everything, but at the same time, it's so fun just to talk about a few songs because they're so, I want to call them not just diverse, but explorative, I would say. Like, there's so many dynamics to each song. There's so many layers. I just really enjoy it. So, for the listeners, the brief rundown of the world of Tenchu. This particular game is set about a year or so after the first game on the PlayStation 1. One of our hero ninjas, Rikimaru, was seemingly lost to another world when he was helping our other protagonist, Ayame, and the young Princess Kiku escape Lord Mayo. Sounds like a lot of information there, but pretty simple. Eventually, it is revealed that Rikimaru is indeed alive, and he makes a return to stop the evil Tenrai, a fiercely powerful wizard who is in pursuit of 3 powerful stones, virtue, earth, and heaven. He surely will use them to destroy the world. This is an action stealth game where the player takes control of a ninja in a fully 3-dimensional world. It's about finding your way through each level as quietly as possible, or, just throwing caution to the wind and plowing through. It is completely up to you, but one thing is for sure, it's a goddamn blast. The game controls very well, and with your trusty grappling hook, you can fly about the levels with ease and precision with that really, really kind of satisfying ziplining sound that they added to it. So, I
love a good movement mechanic, especially in games like this where you're it's a lot of exploring a lot of 3D space and trying to find the best routes around a guard or whatever. I never played Tenchu, but I have played games like Dishonored, which is similar, like stealth or not stealth if you want it to be. And it's a lot of fun to kind of figure out levels and play them the way you want to.
Yeah, this one was definitely more interesting for me in terms of I had never played a stealth game before, so my buddy Chris actually showed me this series, and I was intrigued by the fact that you could pretty much do whatever you wanted. You're running around on the ground, hugging up against walls, sure, but then you grapple hook onto the ceiling and you drop down on enemies and kill them stealthy. It opened doors for me. I was like, that's a really cool way to play. So I spent a lot of time on this game.
That's awesome.
So let's dive in. What song grabbed you first?
I mean, I gotta say the lead out song, I think it's the theme song, I imagine. The Fate or Sadame, the one that really is the only one that has actual vocals, I think. And the vocals are just beautiful in this.
Yeah.
There are some parts of it that have this like very melancholic tonality to it. It does have that feeling of this is my fate. I'm going into this. I'm going to go whatever it takes. I'm going to get it done. It opens with this ride cymbal opening with a string sting that ends that really ramps the song and immediately slows down, allows that vocal to fill the void, and then the end of the chorus just kind of hangs almost on this flat note, giving it a melancholic feel as like a prelude to the strings that just crash onto the scene with the song's melody, which is just beautiful.
This song is absolutely amazing to listen to.
I think it's indicative of the rest of the album. It has that classic feel with the modern, rock guitar riffs that kind of bust in here and there. And I love the breakdown is so sick. It has just this menacing tone, a lot of offbeat notes, minor keys, and then the bongos bring us back to the light, and the chorus rings out, and the rest of the strings join in. And it's one last Sadame and a key change. The strings close out this awesome track.
Yeah. I think the main theme with those strings, it's just so intense and very evocative of the Asian culture in specific ways. I think the album itself is very comprehensive and creative with their instruments, very oriental in nature, and that lends an authenticity to not just this game, but the score itself, I think. And this song is so beautiful to listen to. And the vocalist, I want to give her credit. I believe her name is Yui Mirase. She does a stellar job. And like you said, it sets the tone for the entire album.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, it's a great way to start this entire album. And it just gives you those goosebumps getting ready to get into the rest of it.
Yeah, I think the intensity of the strings for me is part of the melody I just really like. It's very catchy, but then, it comes down in the middle for just a little bit and kind of alludes to the tension and the, I don't want to say horror, but danger of the world you're about to embark on. I like it.
Yeah, for sure. How about you? What song speaks to you?
Well, I guess we're going to go in order here. The one I picked first was Echigoya. This is probably one of the songs that I heard the most. It is the first level, and it is a remix of the first game, one of the songs on the first game. Actually, I believe several of these tracks have elements from the first two soundtracks, but this one fleshes them out and makes them a much more crisp. I like Echigoya because it eases the player into the world of Tenchu with a very steady, not aggressive, not too passive melody. There's a lot of space in this track, which I like. There's a light electric guitar that hits these single notes here and there. Horns build out that space and create a distance, which, as you and I have talked before on other soundtracks, I'm a big fan of three-dimensional sounds and songs, and this one works for me. This level, for reference, finds players wandering through a small village in search of an evil merchant who is kidnapping and selling young women into sexual slavery. So you don't feel bad about killing him.
No, not so much.
But, that aside, the song has a lot of elements to make it come alive. There's a very jaunty bass line that kind of keeps the whole thing grooving.
Yeah.
And there's a taste of funk in the song. You've got some funk licks in there with the guitar, just a taste.
Yeah.
And it adds some flavor. And to add even more flavor, there's an acoustic guitar that has some real nice, intricate pick tapping with harmonics, which is just fantastic.
Yeah, I would agree. Like the best part of that, just like intro bass starts the groove, and how it has all these kind of disparate parts of it where it speeds up, it kind of fills out, and then kind of quiet downs with the like the harmonic strumming, and then kind of comes back in with that slightly like that vocal that comes in that brings the whole song back to life. Yeah,
and that's part of that distance and that dimensionality that I really like.
It has a very chill vibe to it too, and I now that you say this is like the first level, it's kind of going around town trying to figure out what's going on. Definitely fits for that theme.
So let's get on and talk about your next choice.
My next choice has to be Bamboo Forest.
Excellent.
Such a good track. The solo pan flute with a twinkling percussion and some distant, far-off vocals. And then this acoustic guitar just strums a few chords. It's another song that's traditional meets modern with the pan flute, but also has electric guitar duo, or has a pan flute and electric guitar duet kind of in the middle of the song. And it kind of all falls away at some point with some throat singing, which I love, like Mongolian throat singing, and a single pan flute before flashing back to life with a Spanish guitar solo. It's like all over it's interesting that a song or the instruments that kind of are all over the place. You have electric guitar, you have pan flutes, sometimes you have banjos, and you have Spanish guitars, and all these things you would think would be like distracting from each other, but they all fit together in a really interesting quilt. And it just has the feeling of traveling through a forest and coming upon these fanciful, magical scenes, and you have a sprite that is, your guide with a pan flute, basically.
You are not far off when you describe that. It's funny you say magical because this is actually a snowy level. It is, of course, a bamboo forest, as described in the title, but it's basically just a maze of bamboo and you're finding your way through. And you have to make your way past these spirit beings, which is like, there's like a piece of paper. If I'm recalling correctly, there's this Japanese incantation or something attached to them, and they're just kind of floating around, and you engage with them if you absolutely must, because these things, while they're very mundane to look at, they just kind of float around and patrol the level. Yeah. But if they catch sight of you, they like fly at you really fast and like grope you to death. It's very terrifying, but but I just thought that was interesting. You got that feeling from it because I think that pan flute does give a mystical quality to the song. And like you, I think the pan flute and the throat singing is so good. And it just adds a different level to it. It makes it so fun to listen to. And it's not
for sure
your usual type of thing. You don't hear that commonly, I guess.
Yeah. And you don't hear it mixed with some of the other things like a Spanish guitar and the electric guitar and all that. Like, you wouldn't think to add all those together, and he did, and it sounds great.
Yeah. Well, my next pick is going to be Limestone Cave. This one starts out quite appropriately. It comes complete with dripping water behind it. Opens very cold. There's very much a spacious feeling to this track already. immediately it sells the fact that it takes place in a deep inhabited cavern where these ninjas have kind of built a base of operations. And I just like how the song starts. It slowly falls into the main beat and melody, starting with the bass and the synthesizer. There's a chime to kind of count us in behind those. And then once the synth finishes its little preamble, we're into the main melody as demonstrated by the bells. Really fairly calm song, almost like dripping condensation from the ceiling of the cave.
Yeah.
That was a nice way to use those bells because I think it paints that picture. And it's the snare drum. It's lightly played in this little jazzy tempo. I like the really quiet drum. Like it's just kind of
it's there
keeping
enough.
The groove going. Yeah.
Yeah, and it has that nice plodding beat with a very like bass forward melody. Like the whole melody of it is basically the bass guitar and some of the other kind of bassy instruments, along with a little bit of the twinkle of the synthesizer on top. It has that open, very spacious feeling with the bass and all that. And yeah, the opening is great. You're like, I am in a cavern.
I can't get anything else from this song. This is exactly where I need to be.
100%.
But I mean, as you might suspect, since it's a cavern, there are many a pitfall, which means the threats are much more than just your adversaries. So if you're not careful in this level, you will slip and fall.
Yeah.
And there goes your perfect run. But yeah, I think this song captures that feeling from second one, and it sustains it throughout because everything in this song, it either implies cold, which I like, but it implies that dampness of a cave and water condensation dripping from the ceiling. The synthesizer creates this kind of serene yet haunting sound, I want to say, because it's very implicative of dangers lurking around the corner. Yeah. And kind of just the situation you find yourself in. And I like it.
Yeah, it's definitely a good atmospheric song for sure.
Okay. I'm thinking maybe one or two more songs each.
Yeah, I got one.
All right.
I think my last one would be Tatsumaro. Which immediately you get the picture of ninjas running through a forest or city streets at night with the bongos and the drums at the start. And then it has this like another mix of things. It has almost a Middle Eastern sound. The vocals are a bit sound Middle Eastern. It has that very off-key minor note feel that you get from a lot of Middle Eastern Arabic songs. And it has a bluegrass banjo. And it's like how would you think to fix those all together? But the bass line is really simple, but I think it helps kind of meld all the styles together, and it has a very interesting mix. And like Mechanical Castle also has another song that I was listening to.
Very much so.
Also had that bluegrass banjo in it. It has that kind of twangy, Western sound to it.
Yeah.
And then there's a Spanish guitar solo that's just amazing with the pan flute, and it just really ramps up the pace of the entire song. And it's just a great, fast song with just all these elements mixed in that have their own little time in the sun. It's great track.
This is a much more lively song than some of the others, but It opens with those really fast bongos.
Yeah.
It's pretty frantic. I like the frantic nature of this one. A lot of strings and slides to create the intensity of that moment. I believe this takes place during a battle. I'm not 100% sure.
Sounds about right.
Don't quite remember, but yeah, it keeps you paying attention. Let's just put it that way. Those acoustic instruments really have some great picking. I can't agree with you more on that. Excellent song.
All of the, especially specifically the banjo and all the songs that it's included in, and the Spanish guitar are all just beautifully picked, and they just sound great in all of them. How about you for your next or last song?
I think my last song is easily going to be Tenrai Fortress. I mean, Jesus, what a song. It is indeed the final level of the game, and you feel it completely. Mm-hmm. Not only does it open with that gong strike to, give it that brooding intensity, it immediately is followed by this haunting trill synth that prepares you for horror.
Yep.
The strings aren't being played so much as they are being pulled and dragged. You get a lot of horror movie elements in this, and I love it. It's completely different than anything else you'll hear on the album. And behind all those things is a very low pipe that plays a warning melody to me. That's how I take it. There's history in these walls. There's legacy and evil behind every turn. And I get that so fast when I listen to the song.
Yeah.
You know what's happening. You know the implications of where you're at. He just does such a good job on this.
It's so tense up front. It just feels like you're sneaking in the castle of some evil wizard, which sounds like you are.
Which you are, yeah.
But the twinkling of the cymbals and chimes at the beginning just gives you goosebumps. Like you've done something wrong. You're in the wrong place. And it's great how towards the middle, when it all bursts forth with this percussive part, as if you've been discovered, the fight's on. Mm-hmm. And it's great.
Yeah. There's not really much you can conjure other than what you actually are playing in the level. It's giving us that image of a large stone fortress with catacombs that kind of are winding and filled with demons. Flames are lighting your path, and it's just a pretty dark level. Asakura does such a good job at utilizing different instruments and using instruments that don't necessarily spell evil or doom, but the way he uses them in this song is just mind-blowing. And it changes I don't want to say the theme of the game, but it changes the soundtrack, because it is very much unlike just about anything we've heard on the album to this point. And that's important to me, because not only does it show talent, but it shows that ability to kind of keep things fresh.
Yeah.
And keep the listener engaged, and you feel the power right away. So
it is interesting that it almost eschews all of the other more modern or non, what you would not consider a Japanese style, like the Spanish guitar and the banjo and all the other things like that. And it just sticks to a very almost traditional, like Japanese instruments with the pan flute and the daiko drum line as well. It's all very purposeful, and I imagine that's part of the reason why it's at the last fight or the last level, is because you want your player focused on what is happening in this level and what's going on around him.
Yeah, and I totally get what you're saying, and I agree with that, because as much as happening is in this song, it's not pulling that focus. It's frantic, it's loud at times, but at the same time, it's more than anything painting a picture rather than, I guess, being so frantic that you're lost in it. You just kind of focus on what you're doing, and I really like that. So, final thoughts, sir. What did you think of this soundtrack as a whole?
as a whole is incredible that, like we said, he was able to bring all these styles together in a way that is fairly uniform. I mean, there's some tracks that it kind of falls apart in. Mechanical Castle is pretty good, but there are times where it kind of falls apart and gets a bit too frantic for its own good.
It's very experimental, I think.
Yeah. But for the most part, the soundtrack is listenable as a soundtrack, as a piece of music. You could just put it on and listen to it. Mm-hmm. It's very well done. And if you're running a Legend of the Five Rings role-playing game, it's probably a good background track for that.
There you go. Yeah, this soundtrack for me just has such style and grace to it. Asakura, he developed a technique that's not only bold and fresh, but very engrossing to listeners. The songs on this album, for the most part, really engage you as you listen. And like you were saying, you just throw it on. You don't even have to know the source material necessarily. It's just beautiful to listen to. And the plethora of instruments used create just this lush and vibrant landscape with which you immerse yourself. And while the album does have more palatable songs, Asakura does add his flair of obscurity and atmosphere here that keeps the non-traditional interesting and entertaining to listen to. So these songs don't have your traditional hooks like many other games and many other traditional songs, but you're definitely engaged the whole time. So lovely soundtrack, stellar composition. I personally would give this a 10 poisoned rice balls out of 10. What would you?
I would, I think 10 out of 10. There are some tracks that don't resonate with me. So
absolutely, man.
And obviously you have the nostalgia factor.
I do. It was a 9 or 10, but you know.
Yeah. But no, I would say it's 9 shuriken thrown from the dark into your throat out of 10.
As for the soundtrack to buy, they did once release it on a double CD. The second CD has much more stuff that's not related to the game outside of, being the same composer and being inspired by the game, but it's more remixes and experimental stuff. The first disc would be your game content. They did release that. You can only get it third party at this point. I do believe you can buy this soundtrack on iTunes in Japan. So
you gotta get a VPN, but yeah.
I think the clever user can find it somewhere online or create some sort of Japanese iTunes account and download it that way.
There you go.
But yeah, it is worth your listen, even if you do not know this game. So thank you very much for joining us, everyone, to discuss Tenchu Wrath of Heaven. And John, if you'd like to say goodbye, please do so.
Ninja vanish.
Ninja. Thank you for listening to today's episode. If you liked what you heard, please rate and subscribe on your podcast app of choice. Also, check out Magus Media's other podcast, This Is Not Happening, Another X-Files podcast for complete episode breakdowns, insightful banter, and inane babble. Thank you, and we'll see you next time.
Well, hello there, Internet people. My name is Josh, and I am one of the hosts of the Nastagram RPG podcast. We're an actual play RPG podcast, and we're good. And why are we good? Well, let's let the other host tell you. Dan.
Hey, everyone. If you like authentic, real-world sound effects, our lasers go pew-pew.
I love it. Matt.
Skip me. Coming back to Matt.
Ryan.
Okay, so after 2 decades of trying, we finally mastered the 3.5 grapple.
We're not doing that.
We certainly did
Never
not.
mind.
Try again.
Scratch that.
Check it out. Look it up.
John.
If you're looking for a RPG podcast that plays a whole hell of a lot of games, we like to spice the life.
Spice it up.
Spice it up.
Matt, you ready?
Yeah, I think I'm ready. If you enjoy bad accents and overacting, you'll enjoy our podcast.
Yes.
Nice.
Yes.
And Jake, bring us home.
I like to just say we didn't just throw a phone on the table and hit record. Like, Josh does a damn good job with the editing. And
Facts.
if you care about that, you will not be disappointed.
That's right. We spend a bunch of money that we don't make on the podcast.
100%.
So check us out, Nastagram RPG Podcast. You can find us on all the goddamn podcast apps, and we'll see you there.
That's nasty.